Hi everyone, welcome to the Energy Storage Market Series. My name is Erez Dolev and I'm the Managing Director here at Renview. Today we are going to be hearing from Brandon Wild, Jonas Small, and Spencer Christensen from HomeGrid Energy, and they will tell us about their residential energy storage solutions. Before we dive in and while we are waiting for more people to join, I'd like to give a little background on Renview and some of the products and services we offer. Renview is a US-based solar equipment distributor. All of our sales engineers have an engineering background. The company was founded in 2012 and has fulfillment facilities in California, New Jersey, and Texas. I'd like to spotlight a few of our popular products. SolarArc is our most popular hybrid inverter. We keep their 5K, 8K, 12K, and their 12K EMP on the shelf. And we can already take pre-orders now for their new 15Ks. These inverters work great with HomeGrid and also with Fortress battery banks. For cost-effective grid-tied and hybrid high-voltage energy storage inverters, we have Solis and Growatt on the shelf. And for microinverters, we carry Enphase. For panels, we have on the shelf multiple options such as IonRise 330 watt black on black, Hyundai 390s, Recom 380s, and a large selection is incoming. We're bringing between 2 to 5 megawatt of Ryzen panels per month. If you have projects you need them for, contact our sales engineers. You can also check our commercial price list for large volume options and our upcoming offerings of solar modules. We will share now in the chat a link to this file. The file has also a tab for ESS options, and it's inverters and batteries. You can compare pricing and see which way to go. It has several features there like DC and AC or only DC coupled, and the sizes of each of those. The file is being updated constantly and can be a great resource for you. So save it and check it out when you need the panels or inverters or when you want to compare pricing. I'll take a minute also to mention our Blicky residential carport. This is a great way to expand existing solar systems or an alternative solution for where you cannot install solar on a roof. Shown here is the 2-car carport. There is also an option for 1 car and for tandem solution, which shared columns. So you can connect multiple of those with shared columns when you need the carport for more than 2 cars. It is designed to be assembled by a crew of 2. It doesn't require any specialized or heavy tools to install, and it is DIY friendly. This is a solar structure, so it is eligible for the extended 26% ITC. The carport is supplied with Iron Reach system and under module clamps, so it can accept any solar module and inverter you want. When you combine it with a Blicky PDM T-gasket, the surface becomes watertight. There are several accessories that come with it, like decorative mesh to hide the solar components, safety parking lights, and EV chargers that can be added, and has already the holes to connect them to. It is designed and fabricated in Texas, USA, and comes with 25-year warranty. The structure is coming with a structural engineer P stamp. You can install it up to 24 solar modules with 4 columns of 6 modules up, with basic load capacities of 35 pound per square foot snow load, which can be upgraded up to 65 pound per square foot, 175 mile per hour wind load, and seismic design category up to E. The 2-car carport is 18 feet wide and 18 feet deep with 9.5 feet clearance, and it comes with 5 degrees tilt. You can find a 3D model of the tandem carport and the standalone carport on the Blicky website, which we will share a link now, and you can play with it. The last thing I want to share is our quick design and quote tool. This is a free open tool we have on our website, which you can quickly create a quote and bill of materials for any system and compare pricing and different combinations. You can access it from our homepage, selecting first on-grid or off-grid, and then components you want to quote, the type of inverter, and then choose your panel, configure your racking system from a wide range of options. On the left side, you will see the bill of materials building up, and when you're logged into your account, prices changing as you change products and adding items, so you can see which way to go if you want to try to save money, or to see how much string inverter will compare to microinverter or a certain type of battery or size. So here I'm building the racking portion. It comes with it shows a drawing of it. You can select if you want energy storage or not. It's selected here. Solar inverters, and then you get to the point that you're selecting your batteries. There are several HomeGrid battery banks, which Brandon will show in a second. I selected here the 19. Okay, this is a rapid shutdown solution. Here I can decide what balance of systems items I want. I added here two EV chargers, and you can see the pricing on the left, and system size, price per watt. Then when you finish, you get a bill of material with pricing, quantities, and all. And then you can send it to your email and generate a proposal, which you will be able to share with our sales engineers, make changes, and purchase, and it will show up in your My Account. This is how it looks like on the back end. This is My Account, and you can place your order or make changes here. Okay. So if you have any questions about these products or about HomeGrid Energy while Brandon, Jonah, and Spencer are presenting, please feel free to ask in the Q&A section, and we will go over the questions at the end of the webinar during the Q&A session. Please do not use the chat feature for questions. You can certainly use it to comment or just to talk about whatever is on the screen, but for questions, use the Q&A. Otherwise, it will be really hard for us to go through them and respond to all questions. You can also email our sales team at info@renvu.com for more information and pricing. As well, we do have a recording of previous webinars on the Renview YouTube channel if you're interested. And we will, this webinar is also being recorded and will be sent to you in a follow-up email in the next couple of days. Okay, it looks like we're about to start here. I'm going to hand it over to Brandon to start the presentation.
Awesome. Thank you, Erez. I appreciate it. First off, just want to say thank you to Renview. We've really appreciated working with you guys so far, and it's been a pleasure. Also want to say thank you to everyone tuning in and taking some time out of your day to learn more about our storage solutions. Before we get into it, I want to go ahead and kind of go over the agenda. We'll start out with hearing from Spencer Christensen. He's one of the original founders of HomeGrid, and he's the director of HomeGrid. He'll be talking about kind of just like a company overview. We'll then be going to hear from Jonah about kind of the history of batteries and the different chemistries. I will then be talking about a product lineup. Jonah will then be talking about sizing batteries, and we'll be ending with Spencer talking a little bit about smart energy packages. So I'll go ahead and pass it over to Spencer to kind of give you a little bit of info on our company.
Hey, thanks, Brendan. Thanks, Ares. So a quick overview. We started this about 18 months ago, but it's been a much longer process. We were brought into a group. We were acquired by Lithion, which their engineers pioneered lithium iron phosphate. So the engineers that work at Valence, and my partner Stu Graham, were some of the original pioneers of lithium iron phosphate. They have amazing connections throughout, the battery manufacturing community. So through that, we've been able to, have the best sourcing and have the best engineering to bring forward a product that we feel like really fits what the market's going after. Essentially, the go-to-market strategy has been working initially with installers and now on a larger scale with distributors and installers around the country. We're in all 50 states. We even have an international presence. We have a team over in Europe working in that market as well. And it's been fun to see the rapid expansion of this market. I think this is a pretty unique opportunity for everybody. It's something we can all believe in and get behind, helping homeowners have energy independence and a more sustainable approach. So I feel like that's kind of the defining feature of our team. We're very excited to get after that mission. Our strategy has been to provide the best sales and technical support possible, which works extremely well with our partners, Solarc and Savant. And I'll go into more detail on that later, but that is our mission, to have the best product for you and bring the best quality support on sales support. We're helping with sizing, individual projects, much larger projects on the commercial scale. One other defining feature about this company is that we're shifting all of the manufacturing back to the US. So Lithion is backed by TriWest Capital. They have an international presence. We've got battery lines supporting, Disney rides, or, they've got the batteries on the Boston Dynamics Spot Dog. They've been shifting all of the manufacturing for all of their lines, including the HomeGrid line, back to the US. So this year we're planning on the manufacturing, the assembly of the products will be here in Henderson, Nevada. And then over the course of the next 2 to 3 years, we'll be building a large prismatic cell factory to be 100% American made. That's kind of a general overview. So turning it over now to Jonah, he's got some info.
Yeah, what we can do, thanks Spencer, we can go over a few basic topics because today, after this, Brandon's going to go over some of our advantages for our specific products. But I kind of wanted to go over a few basic things before we segue into our product lineup and what those advantages are. So the first one is going to be a basic overview of why somebody would want batteries on a residential property. And that'll then we'll go into the history of battery chemistries and what the advantages are. So for residential property, if you're just putting solar on homes, which has kind of been the industry standard, up until the last couple of years, a lot of people don't realize that for safety regulations, their solar will not work in the event of a grid outage. And so you have access to your solar power only when the grid is connected and only when the sun is up. The advantage of a battery is twofold for a home. One is that you can take advantage of storing that solar power every single day to use that power in the evenings and to continue not using the grid on a daily basis during certain times. The second advantage is that if the grid goes down, you now have access to your own microgrid, which means that every day you can harness that power from the sun, store it in your battery, and use that even when the grid's not connected. So there's a daily savings aspect to it. And there's also a resiliency aspect, meaning that if the grid goes down, you can continue to utilize your solar power that's on your home. As a brief history of kind of lithium ion batteries, lithium ion started as with Sony, as they were trying to build better batteries for mobile applications, so cell phones, laptops, and things like that. And that's where they started coming out with chemistries like nickel manganese cobalt and things like that that were fantastic for mobile applications, but that had some disadvantages. And what I can do is share my screen real quick. And what this graph kind of shows is some of the different advantages of different formulas. The main one that we see right now, or the main three, are nickel, cobalt, aluminum in the top left here. In the top middle, nickel, manganese, cobalt. And then what we use is lithium iron phosphate in the bottom right here. So in their design of these batteries for mobile applications, they needed something that was very lightweight and energy dense, which is really good for those, like laptops and cell phones, and even vehicles are using those formulas. The problem with it is that it's a little bit more dangerous, and the lifespan of these are not ideal. I'm sure everyone's familiar with the concept of using your phone over a certain period of time, and over the first year, your battery life just continues to drop and tank. The advantage with lithium iron phosphate, which is the chemistry that we use in all of our batteries, and a few other brands do as well, is that you're trading weight and size for significant performance and lifespan advantages. So lithium iron phosphate has much better power output. It has a significantly better safety aspect. So touching on the safety, I'm sure people have heard of recalls of Tesla and LG batteries, or big battery fires for large commercial storage. It's because they're using these battery chemistries like NMC in the top middle or NCA in the top left, where they have excellent power density initially, but they have the potential for thermal runaway and catching fire and propagating that. And so with lithium iron phosphate, you're trading a little bit of extra weight in the battery chemistry for much better safety, no thermal runaway, the potential to catch fire is virtually non-existent, and a much better capacity over time, so lifespan and power, so the specifications of it. And so when we're looking at the industry, like vehicles and laptops and cell phones, these other chemistries are still excellent. But when we're looking at an application like residential storage or commercial or utility storage, where weight and a little bit of size aren't necessarily an advantage, lithium iron phosphate really is the only chemistry that should be used for these applications. The last point that I'd like to go over is kind of the sizing history of batteries, especially in the US here with these modern formulas for homes. A lot of it was based actually, on California with Tesla coming out with some of their batteries. If you look at the way the sizing works, and we'll go into more of how to size a battery system later after we go over our products, but a lot of batteries in the US market, like Tesla, were based off of time of use plans. And I'm sure if we have a lot of people in California, you guys are most familiar with these structures. They're not everywhere in the US, but the idea is that your utility charges you a higher rate during certain times of the evening when they are having to, when there's an increased demand on the grid. And so what a lot of these battery companies like Tesla did was they came out with batteries and they designed them simply around trying to offset the power usage of a home during those few hours in the evenings, both to help the grid and to save homeowners money. The disadvantage with that, and we'll kind of go into that later, is that set the precedent for the industry, and that batteries were sized and created and systems were designed only around providing power for certain periods of time, like 2 to 4 hours for a home. And they haven't been designed to power an entire house, which is what people expect these systems to do now. So with that, I'll go ahead and pass it back off to Brandon to kind of go through some of our products and how we try to design them by stepping back and looking and say, we don't want to fit into a little niche of the industry. We want to design a battery that can handle exactly what people expect it to now.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Jonah. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen and show you guys a little bit of our website here. All right, so before I get into our product overview, I did want to show our website. This is a great place to find different resources for our company. So all the spec sheets that I'll be going over today, you can find on our website. You can also find quick install videos, quick install guides, and even some marketing material on here. If you scroll down here to the bottom, it has all of our different storage solutions, everywhere from our smaller compact series all the way up to more of our commercial scale unit, which is the Power Block series. I'm going to go ahead and actually start with the Stack series though. This is kind of our bread and butter, definitely our selling battery. Reason being is it is a very diverse unit. It can handle anything from small residential all the way up to smaller commercial type jobs and off-grid scenarios. So here's a couple install photos. These can go outside. This is our warehouse in Henderson, Nevada. We do have plenty of these in stock. I'm going to go ahead and pull up our spec sheet to go over the specs now. So when we designed this battery, we really want to design this battery around providing full home backup. Many batteries on the market claim that they can support full home backup. However, they don't really have the specs to do so. So with this battery, we wanted to make sure we had a high output so that we could handle whole home backup, including like the AC and even like water pumps. So you'll see here that once you get up to, I should mention real quick before I get into that, this unit is modular. So each module you see right here is 4.8 kilowatt hours. And the top of this is the BMS right here. So each module, like I said, has 4.8 kilowatt hours. It is scalable from 9.6 kilowatt hours all the way up to 38.4 kilowatt hours in those 4.8 kilowatt hour increments. You can actually run, we need to update this. We did some recent testing, but we can actually do up to 15 units in parallel. So you can get up to, over a half a megawatt hour running 15 of these in parallel if need be. One thing to also notice, and why this is a great battery for full home backup as well as off-grid applications, is the output. We have 2 to 3 times the output than most of the other batteries on the market. Once you get up to 4 modules is where you start getting that 15 kilowatt output with a 24 kilowatt surge. The module design of our battery has several different benefits. One is the easy install. Installers that have installed our battery once or twice, it's very easy to get the install time down to about 30 minutes or so. There is no additional wiring between each module here, which, like I said, makes it very easy to install. It also makes it very easy to upgrade this unit down the road. We've had many clients start out with a smaller battery, like a 19.2, and then want to add something like an EV charger or something like that, and they need to increase their capacity. Literally takes 15 to 20 minutes to go ahead and add on another module or 2. Also makes it so it's very easy to service out in the field. These modules are ran in parallel. So if one of these modules do go out, it's very easy for us just to send a new module and pop in a new one. So, and even if one of these modules do go out, the rest of the module will still be working. So one thing to mention is that these units are IP55, so they can go outside. We do typically recommend though, if you have a spot to put them inside, we do recommend that. I mean, just like anything, there is wear that comes from exposing something to, outside climate. But yeah, these can go outside. We do recommend you only put them outside in temperate climates, and if they are outside, that they are not in direct sunlight. We did also want to design this battery to look good in the home. We know that a lot of people that do not live in temperate climates will have to be putting these inside their home, and we wanted to make sure that it did have a sleek look with a smaller footprint as well. As far as communications go, we do work with several different inverter companies. One inverter company that we have paired up with is Solark. We really love working with them for several reasons, but one reason being is we do think that their inverters have some of the best specs on the market and do take full advantage of our specs. Typically, we found that the inverter is the bottleneck with our battery, but with the 15K coming out, the Solark 15K coming out, that won't really be the case as much anymore. That they do fit pretty perfectly with each other. But we also do have closed loop comms with Schneider, SMA, Growatt, Victron, and several others as well. Moving on to our next unit, we have the integrated unit. And this is something we actually just opened up orders for this week. We worked with Solark on this solution. We really wanted to showcase our partnership with Solark because we really do think with Solark's 15K that they just released and our stack series that it really is the first solution on the market where you can actually provide full home backup with just one battery and one inverter. We also wanted something that's easier to install. So with these batteries, there's no need to run conduit from the inverter to the battery. We include the 4/0 cable pre-crimped to the correct length. And you can also even order these kind of pre-configured. So they show up really just plug and play, ready to go. And lastly, we did have a lot of requests for homeowners that wanted a very sleek all-in-one look. And that's something that we definitely think we accomplished with these. But yeah, this unit is basically a casing that sits on top of our stacked unit that houses a Solark. So it will have the same specs as the stack series. All right. Oh, and one thing to keep in mind with these units is that these are not outdoor rated. We hope to down the road be able to make these outdoor rated, but for the time being, these are only indoor rated. Moving on to the Power Block series. This is kind of similar to our integrated series I just showed you, but this is more for commercial applications. We've seen these pretty popular with smaller farms or kind of estate residences, large residential homes that aren't able to store batteries inside their home. Let's see here. So yeah, we wanted to create a waterproof solution for small commercial projects up to 208 volt 3-phase. Like I mentioned, they're similar to the integrated series, but on a larger scale. And we also did partner up with Solark on these units. These units can house 3 of the Solarks on the outside, either the 12K or the 15K. And it can house up to 4 of our stack series. So it is modular from 9.6 kilowatt hours all the way up to 153 kilowatt hours. And you can run up to 2 of these units in parallel. We also do offer these to come pre-configured with the inverters and batteries pre-installed. And also really at that point, they kind of just become plug and play and ready to go to install. These units are temp controlled and weatherproof. They have 2 AC units within them, so they can withstand harsher climates. And lastly, moving on to our compact series, we designed this battery to be very affordable for partial and emergency backup, mostly used for smaller homes, apartments, apartment complexes, multifamily buildings, and smaller cabins. It's also great for people that would prefer a wall-mounted solution over a floor-standing unit. These units do have a just over a 5 kilowatt capacity with also just over a 5 kilowatt output. One thing to notice for this small of a capacity, it does have a very high output. So it's a great battery. And you can run up to 15 of these in parallel. So we have seen people run, several of these in parallel if they don't have room for, to have a floor stacked or a floor standing unit. These are only indoor rated, so they cannot go outside is one thing to keep in mind. And yeah, we really just wanted to make sure that we had a very sleek, looking battery with a pretty small footprint for those that want to have a wall mountable solution. So that is all of our storage solutions. One thing to keep in mind is that we do have a 10-year, 4,000 cycle warranty on all of our batteries. And recently with the Stack series, we did just receive the UL 9540 with Solar. So we're really excited about that. All right, I'm gonna go and stop sharing and I'll pass this over to Jonah. He's gonna go ahead.
I think, Brandon, we might be losing you a little bit. I can take over here.
A little bit about our sizing tool and how to size these batteries.
Cool. Thanks, Brandon. I think we're losing you a little bit for connection. So in summary, with our products, we've tried to hit the whole gamut. Like I said in the beginning, a lot of the batteries and kind of the specifications on them and what they're being used for are being brought from other designs and other industries into residential storage. And what we've tried to do is, like I said, take a step back and say, what does residential storage need? Not only for daily time of use offset, but if people want to be able to power every load in the home. So Rob had a good point in the chat of discussing and calling these microgrids and not just whole home backup. It's the idea that these batteries are not just used as an emergency generator. They're meant to be used every single day to help you save on your electric bill and to use the grid as plan B. And you're using the grid to supplement the current system that you have on your home. And to also provide people with the ability to fully go off grid if they want to. And right now it's very difficult to do that because these battery systems have been brought from a design set that's based off of time of use and only supplementing time of use. So what we'll do is go over kind of like a brief overview on sizing for batteries. What we try to do is come up with a basic sizing tool on our website, and I'll explain, generally what we're using to come up with some of these numbers. A lot of people out there find it very difficult to sit there and figure out what capacity do they need for what their goals are. Do you want this just as a slight emergency backup to keep the lights on for a few hours? Do you want to go fully off grid, or do you kind of want to go somewhere in the middle where, you're having some partial offset every single day in your house? So our sizing tool on our website allows you to go in and put in your worst month out of the year. That's what we suggest using, is your highest usage month for kilowatt hours in the year. And so if that falls maybe around 3,000, these are going to be the numbers that kind of spit out for you. Most of the people that we see fall around 2,000 to 2,500 kilowatt hours a month, but that varies drastically by location and the usage of a family or somebody in the house. So when we do this, we know that the solar system on the house needs to be sized to a certain level. So as an example, if you have solar on your home and it's a 5 kilowatt system and your home is using 5 kilowatts of power during the day, we know that there's not any extra solar to charge the battery during the day. So if you're using at least an 85% offset on your solar, that will provide a little bit of extra power so that we can charge the battery back up every morning when the sun comes up. Based on that, the solar is going to cover, worst case, about a third of the usage of the home. So if you're using about 30 kilowatt hours in a day, we know that solar, worst case, may only cover about 10 to 15 of those, which means you have 10 to 15, or you have potentially 20 kilowatt hours that are not covered by solar. So that's where we use this formula here and say, well, if we want to match a third of the coverage with battery so that you can use it from when the sun goes down into the night and do that daily time of use offset, that's what most people tend to do here, which is the partial offset in the middle. And what that does is it allows you to have that daily time of use offset on your home, but also provides you with enough capacity in the battery to back up essential loads if the grid does go down. We also have an off-grid option here, which is like an off-grid grid tied, meaning that we are most of the year going to cover all of the usage every day. The advantage here with our battery in the stack series, and kind of what Brandon talked about with that modularity, is that if you do want to expand your battery later, so start small and grow it to what you want, that's something that's very easy to do. And when we're talking about forming a microgrid or backing up and going off grid, being able to power all the loads in the home is a big deal. So when Brandon was reviewing the specifications of our battery on the stack series, that's what I was talking about earlier, is that when you compare us to other batteries, the capacity and output is very limited. We typically see around 10 kilowatt hours or so, 10 to like 18 kilowatt hours from other batteries, with an output of anywhere from 5 to 9. So us being able to essentially do 2 to 5 times that of any other battery on the market is a big advantage for being able to size this battery correctly and get out of it what you really want from a battery and solar on your home. So that's kind of it for me. We can go over questions with the Q&A, but I know Spencer's going to do a kind of brief overview of smart energy and some of the partnerships that we've formed as we've grown.
Excellent. Okay, so let me share my screen real quick. So I think one thing we also want to show is this video. I think when people see how simple it is to install these batteries, you realize kind of the power behind it. The install time is significantly reduced. These are outdoor rated. We don't recommend direct sunlight. There's no cabling on the side. It only takes 30 minutes to set it up. The commissioning is very straightforward. So you can watch this video, and we don't even do a kind of certification process because it's so simple. Essentially, you watch a couple of our videos, this is 4 minutes, and you pretty much have it all down. People can upgrade extremely simply. Like it's a very, very simple upgrade. Servicing is easy too. If one of those modules goes bad, the whole thing doesn't go down. It's run in parallel. It's just one of the modules. So the other modules will continue functioning. You can, I think, let's show you a couple of these installs as well. They look pretty great. So this one's over in Virginia. It's outside. This is actually in the Savant home, and we ran them, and they were doing some testing on the parallel feature. So we can, like Brandon said, we can run up to 15 in parallel full stacks. So we can customize to almost any residential and smaller commercial job. This one's over in Hawaii. So they are outdoor rated. And then another strong suit that we have is that we have significant inventory over in our warehouse, and we actually expanded to a second warehouse. So we have well over 1,000 units ready to go to be shipped within a week, and we can scale up rapidly. So the smart energy package, as we see it, is the goal was to where we see the market moving to is, Rob in the chat had mentioned, it's not just backup. It really isn't. It's smart energy. The homeowner now is in control of their power. If the Texas freeze happens, you're not dependent on the grid anymore. You have full control. In fact, with that 4 millisecond transfer time, you wouldn't even notice the grid going down. And you're using it every single day. You're using your solar, charging your home during the day, and then the battery should charge within about an hour and a half, just depending on how much consumption and the size of the battery. So come 4 p.m., your battery kicks in off the solar power that you produced, and it'll carry you through to the next day. So the grid really does become plan B. And we wanted it to pencil out everywhere, and it's going to. It pencils out to pay for itself in many states right now because it's offsetting your current power bill. And usually, if you look at Hawaii, it's 2 to 3 years payback. It'll pay for itself. California is very quick as well, and in an increasing number of states. So not only do you get the independence factor, but it also is an investment, putting money back into your pocket. The way that this really works is that now we can eliminate the critical load panel. That's a big part of it. With the SolarArc 15K, it's got a 200 amp pass through. So you don't have to designate a couple of loads, which takes, almost a full day to do one of those critical load panels. You can just put your SolarArc on the system. And then I want to show you the Savant companion module. Somebody asked about what smart load system we recommend. This is one of our partner companies. So this is a competitor to Lumen and Span. They bought General Electric's lighting division, and they've dominated in the luxury home space. They've got a presence, in audiovisual, the Magnolia Center, and in Best Buy, and they have, one of the top-notch user experiences. And now they're coming to main market. It's very affordable. It's about half the cost of what I've seen to other smart load systems. Instead of it being a full panel, it's a modular approach. So these companion modules you put in there and tie to the breakers. You don't need to do every load. You really just need to do non-essential automatic loads, like your HVAC or pool pump, loads that would kick on automatically that could drain the battery. And you don't want to overload the system. The 15K inverter and the battery have a 500 amp surge, so you should be good on the overloading side, but this will help mitigate that problem. Essentially, you add a couple of these companion modules, and instead of having to do a hardware critical load panel, now you have a software critical load panel. So this is what this is on our website, and they have some great materials coming out. The commissioning is very simple as well. So instead of having to do, one of those other smart load systems that can take a full day on a retrofit, sometimes 2 days, this is definitely sub 1 hour for installation and commissioning. So very exciting. So this is how it ties in. And you can use CTs, so you can do full home audits, energy audits. So I think this is the direction that smart load is going to go for retrofits, especially. They have, 60 amp companion modules. So that's super exciting. So yeah, that's kind of the smart energy package. Goal being full control back in your hand, makes it affordable. The installation time is about sub 5 hours for a HomeGrid stack, a SolarArc unit, a SolarArc 15K, and a Savant in charge smart load system. So that's about half to sometimes even a quarter of the install time of other competing packages. Okay, so let's jump into Q&A now. I'll stop sharing.
Yeah, we've got a few questions. Can go ahead and bring up the one that I think we've already answered a couple of them. What load management system will we recommend instead of using a dedicated backup panel? And this is kind of what Spencer was talking about. We would recommend either SolarArc Smart Load or really the Savant Smart Load system that Spencer just reviewed. The advantage to these systems is that, especially with Savant, if there's room in the existing panel, you can put those modules in there. And now, where possible, you're treating it like a full home install every single time, but you have flexible load management. So you're getting essentially daily full home backup with the potential to, automatically switch over to critical loads if the grid goes down for a while. And so the advantage of these load management systems is that with a critical load panel, as I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, the idea is that you pass, circuits over that you want to keep backed up in the event of an outage to a sub panel. And if the grid goes down, only that sub panel receives power. It doesn't matter how long the grid goes down for. So most people experience brownouts where their grid's not going down for weeks at a time. It might be for a few hours here and there. And the problem with using those critical load panels is that every time the grid goes down, even if it's only for 30 minutes, you just lost access to anything that's not on that critical load panel. Whereas using something like a smart load system like Savant's, if the grid goes down and your solar is producing and you have enough battery capacity, it's going to keep those loads on, those high use loads like your air conditioning and things like that, because you have enough power to keep those on. And if it detects that the solar is not enough and you're starting to deplete your battery, then it can automatically turn off those things like your air conditioner, your pool pumps, things like that. So those are the systems that we would recommend right now. Second question is from Steven, tied into service and not the bus. Answer. So our battery is DC coupled to an inverter, such as Solarc or Schneider. And then that inverter would be tied into the service. So depending on where you're located, the inverter would be placed in between the meter and the main panel in your home, or between the main panel in your home and a sub panel. So if you are placing multiple stacks in parallel, meaning like one of those installs that we showed where you're using 2 or 5 or 10 stacks, then you would need to connect all the batteries together to a DC bus system that goes to the inverters. But most people are using 1 stack of our batteries, 1 or 2. In those cases, you just tie them directly into the inverter, which is then connected to the service. Support loads panel. Specific models of grow-out inverters. One of the big things, Mike, I don't want to give you a wrong answer. I know that grow-out has a few of them. We're only compatible with their 48-volt systems, but I don't want to give a wrong answer, so we can try and send that out in the email, because I don't remember off the top of my head the specific models that we have communications with for grow-out.
I can do this next one. It says, outdoor units, do they have heaters or freeze protection? Now that's a great question. The minimum temperature for lithium batteries is 14 degrees Fahrenheit. Now we have going through UL right now. Going through, yeah, sorry, I changed so I'm answering live. So right now going through UL, we have these heating strips going on the stack units. So it can maintain it at 5 degrees Celsius and it won't throttle down. There is obviously some self-consumption there, but it will work. We have a growing presence in Canada and the Northeast, some parts of the northern Midwest. So we had to find an elegant solution to keep these batteries live and not throttle them down. So that will be ready in about 3 to 4 weeks. So definitely for next winter.
And then for the, sorry if I missed you talking about the power block. For the power block, we do have heating built into that unit to keep it within operating parameters. And one thing to look at too is that even in colder climates, like when these systems are placed in the garage, a lot of batteries have like an inefficiency, right? So we're 98% efficient. And so looking at that 2% efficiency loss when we're charging and discharging, that is dissipated as heat with the battery, like a little bit of heat. And so if you're using these systems every day, even if they're in a cold climate, just by using them, depending on how cold it is, they can actually keep themselves within operating parameters.
The question on who manufactures your LFP batteries. So we have, we are sourcing the prismatic cells right now. These are tier 1 automotive grade prismatic cells. We have a 10-year warranty on them with 4,000 cycles. So these are the best battery cells out there for this application. We anticipate getting about 7,000 to 9,000 cycles out of them. So 15 to 20 years. You can do a full depth of, full discharge on these batteries. And it's not going to affect the lifespan of the batteries as much as NMC. We have a manufacturing partner now. We have the we have the IP on it. We are shifting over the manufacturing and assembly to the US. We'll still be sourcing the cells from overseas. But in 2 to 3 years, we'll be 100% fully integrated on that front. As far as kind of the actual partners that we have, we don't typically discuss it on public forums like this, but we're definitely down. If you want to do a private conversation, we can talk about it more with if we have like an NDA in place.
For the question on virtual power plant solutions with battery storage systems. So typically virtual power plants, like systems like Connected Solutions in the Northeast and some other programs like SGIP, even in California, they rely on communications with the inverter system because that's typically what is controlling the power flow from multiple sources. So it controls where power is being pushed and when. And so we have closed loop communications with Solarc, Schneider. Our biggest one is Solarc, who has approval through all of the VPPs across the US. And so if our battery is installed with a Solarc system and tied into a VPP, then you can utilize it with those programs. From Stephen, any thoughts on homes that cannot have solar? Example, home in a forested area has a generator for emergencies, time of use plans available. Can you charge batteries from generator or grid during low price times? So we do actually see this. So we see this from some people, especially on a larger scale. So as an example, for businesses, they pay a lot of peak demand charges, meaning that anytime they have high electricity usage, they pay more for their bill throughout the month. And so we've started seeing the same thing in homes where somebody actually just puts a battery there and charges it from the grid when the electricity is the cheapest, and then uses it every single day when it's more expensive. So you're still getting some savings there. The advantage for tying into a generator and battery with a Solarc with no solar is that you're improving the efficiency of your generator if the grid does go down. Meaning that the Solarc system, a Solarc inverter with our battery and a generator, if the grid goes down and your battery begins to deplete because you're using that power for your home, the Solarc can automatically turn on your generator and use that power to charge your battery back to full and then turn the generator off. So now what you have is you have your battery that you're using frequently for short outages, but if you're down for a long time, you're improving the efficiency of your generator because you're capturing the full power. So a lot of generators don't have what they call kind of like load shedding, meaning that a generator that you buy that's producing, let's say 10 kilowatts of power, it's trying to produce 10 kilowatts of power the entire time it's on. It doesn't matter if your house is using 2 or 5, that generator is going to try and produce 10 all the time. So you're kind of wasting that power. So the ability to capture all 10 from that generator, pull it into the battery and store that for later, and then turn off the generator when it's full, greatly improves the efficiency of those systems.
With a 2-wire generator, it is auto start. So we get that question quite a bit. Why use a battery over generator? The ease of use is significantly better. It's a seamless system that you're using every day, 4 millisecond transfer time. The system kicks on. You don't have to worry about fuel. You're providing your own fuel. So if there's no solar, at the very least, the inverter makes it so the whole home is an extension of the battery and the generator, rather than running, electrical cords from the generator or having to deal with, any maintenance on the generator. So that's significantly better.
How do I figure out, from Rob, how do I figure out time of use and time to get to full charge in the calculator? So in the calculator, that middle setting, so that standard like partial offset is going to be the most common size that people use for offsetting general time of use every day. So the most common size of the battery that we see in the US for the average home is our 4 stack, which is 19.2 kilowatt hours, or the 5 stack, which is 24. So that size for the average home is typically enough to offset enough usage during the evenings to get through time of use. And then to get to full charge, that will greatly depend on the size of the battery, because a smaller 9.6 kilowatt hour battery may charge in an hour. But if you have 50 kilowatt hours of battery, which is 5 times that, it's going to depend highly on, the inverter that you have and the solar amount that you have to get that charged back to full capacity. So it's something where our team, and this is kind of another point to hit on, is that we have regional representatives broken up across the country. And it's not just a sales team, it's somebody that can help with basic sizing, basic information on solar and battery sizing. And so if you have questions, you can always go to the contact page for a certain area and view our regional representatives that are frankly even happy to answer some basic questions on how to size something for your home. even if it's not HomeGrid specific, because our goal is just to continue improving this industry. For Daniel, can I connect a small wind turbine to these batteries? That will depend on the inverter that you're using. So right now, the answer is really no, because wind turbines have a number of different problems with kind of how they regulate their output to certain systems. That is something that Solarc is actively working on. So I would expect at some point this year, Solarc to be prepared to accept a wind input on their inverters that would then allow you to use that to charge the batteries. But at the moment, no, there's not a way to connect a small wind turbine to them.
Great question on the Enphase. Enphase and SolarEdge we don't have comms with, so you would have to AC couple with one of the other inverters that we do pair with. Usually it's Solarc, but you could use the SMA or Schneider.
From Michael, are there rebates or tax breaks when adding batteries to peak shave energy usage? The answer is yes. If you're pairing batteries with a solar system, it depends on where you're located, but for the federal tax incentive for these systems, there is like I believe it's a 20 to 26% tax write-off on these systems. Depending on the state and area where you're located, there's also other incentives like SGIP, connected solutions, where you can get extra rebates for installing these systems. And so if you're based in California, as an example, it would depend on what utility area you're in and how much money they have left in certain categories. But there are typically, there's the federal incentive for taxes, and then your local state may also have a rebate of anything from $200 to paying for a certain percentage of the project. Rez, this may be one for you.
I will have a sales engineer responding to that in the follow-up email.
Okay.
What we are selling, just to say, we're selling NLX car charger, EV chargers, but I don't think they are a bidirectional.
Okay. What about for industrial from Rob? We do have, basically our HomeGrid brand will go up to, really we can handle anything that's 2A volt, 3-phase and down. Because of the output of our batteries and the capacity that we can hit with the systems in parallel, we do a lot of commercial installs, like small commercial. Pushing into industrial with higher voltage, 3-phase and some different solutions. We do have a sister company called Gridbox. They're kind of an affiliate underneath Lithion, and they do have containerized solutions that can provide options for industrial and utility applications. So we can also share that contact information with the Gridbox team in the email that goes out afterward. But they are a separate entity from us underneath the Lithion umbrella.
For Michael's question, your answer live. What if no solar, only battery and inverter for rebates? You have to have solar or some source of renewable energy for the tax credit. Now, the SGIP program, we were able to do it without solar for battery. So it depends on the rebate program. And reach out to us and we can help address each rebate program. We're very familiar with all of them. And this question from Richard. Since there is no critical load sub-panel for microgrid off-grid whole home sizing for homes with all-in-one main panels, load center, meter and main breaker in one side-by-side configuration, do you have any examples or case studies how to integrate a rapid shutdown device in such an environment for an AC coupled application? Absolutely. Yeah, we could definitely work through that with you. We have projects just like that, so we can help you on the sizing and the design there. We can do that project specific. Something exciting. So most of our customers use Tygo for rapid shutdown optimization, but there's another company coming out called Intelligent. That'll be a great option. Will be a great partner company. So check them out. They have panel level monitoring, optimization, and rapid shutdown.
Yeah, and typically what we'll see in situations like this, because we mostly see it in California, where you can't do a line side tap for these installations. Typically what people will do is they will basically create a like secondary main panel where they shift all of the loads on the main panel, because you can't get in between the meter and the main panel. And they'll shift all of the loads onto a second panel. So even though it's technically a sub panel, it's still the entire house's loads. And then they'll put the solar arc in between those two. So less inconvenient, but depending on local regulation, there's often no other way to do it. I don't know if there were any other questions like in the chat. I know I saw a couple. In 10 years or so, what is the typical transition plan? Does HomeGrid recycle batteries when replacing? Right now, as we continue looking for sites for the cell manufacturing in the US, that is something that we're looking at doing when that opens. Right now, if we have failures of the battery, like if something happens, we would rely on third-party recycling centers that are starting to open up with a lot of federal incentives across the country. Let me see if there's anything else. Where can we get an idea of equipment costs, including install parts needed? That would be Renview.
Yeah, I shared a link to our online design and quote tool that will generate a full bill of material for any project that you design there. So you make your selections, number of modules, the type of roof or installation you want, inverter, batteries, and accessories, balance of system, and then you will get a full bill of material at the end.
And as an example, with our battery, if you're installing a single stack, it would just be the battery that we ship, and then it would just be a couple of 4-aught electrical cables that go to the inverter. So like we said earlier, we tried to make it really, really easy. We have a lot of homeowners that do it themselves, where it's just like stacking big Legos and red to red, black to black. It's not something you can really mess up.
So the cables are included in the battery when.
So the 4-aught cable for our compact series, we do include the cables. For the stack series battery, we do not include the 4-aught cables. We have a lot of people that install it, 3 feet away from the inverter. A lot of people that may need to go 10 or 15 feet away from the inverter. So for the 4-aught cables that are used, like the positive and negative that go to the inverter, we do, like the installer or the homeowner would need to purchase that and use that.
Sounds good. Okay, looks like we went through everything and we just reached the hour. Thanks everyone for joining us today, and thanks Brendan, Jonah, and Spencer for doing this with us and spending the time this morning. I will work on the recording and email it to you in the next few days. Have a great rest of your week, everybody.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.